If you're over 50, there are 3 movements that you should do daily to improve your strength and your mobility. And in this video, I'm going to show you what those movements are and why they're so important. If you don't know who I am, my name is Harlow and I'm the Over-50's specialist physio here at HT Physio in Farnham. And today we're going to be revealing 3 movements that over-50s should do every day to improve their health. Now, I've chosen these 3 movements because they are all to do with areas of the body that become weak and stiff and tight in people over the age of 50, and just doing these movements a couple of times a day is often enough to reverse that process. Now, I understand that the over-50s category has a whole range of abilities, so for each movement what I've tried to do is break the movement down into an easy component, an intermediate and a more difficult one for our more advanced over-50s. But that being said, these movements are not going to be suitable for everyone. This is just general information, so make sure you get checked out by your healthcare professional to see if it's applicable to you, and definitely avoid any of the movements that cause pain. Now, that's being said, let's have a look at the 3 movements so you can have a go at them at home. The first movement that over-50 should do daily is the sit back squat. And this is one of my favourite exercises for mobility of the back, of the hips, of the knees and of the ankles. So I'm going to show you the different levels of difficulty of this movement now. So all you need for this to work is something to hold on to, like a kitchen worktop or the back of a chair, something that isn't going to move when you start to pull against it. So I'm going to use my bed here. What we're going to do is put 2 hands on the bed like this, leaning slightly forwards. And then all we're going to do whilst holding on is sit back into it as if we're going to sit back into a chair and try and round the back and sit back down towards the ground. Now, you'll see here that this is like a stretch for lots of different parts of my body. So when I'm going back like this, I'm stretching my lower back. As I start to bend, what I'm doing now is I'm stretching the bottoms of my hips up into flexion. So my knees are coming up towards me and my buttock is getting stretched. And now I'm starting to stretch the quads, and I'm also stretching the calf muscles at the back. So it's such a nice combined movement. You're going to work a lot of different parts of the body doing this, but I appreciate not everyone's going to be able to do this. So what we're going to do instead, if you can't do this movement, is we're going to break it up into a few chunks. So the first thing we can try and do is just this part, where we're just holding on to something and leaning back. And this is going to give us a nice stretch in the lower back. So if that's where you need to start, that's absolutely fine to do that, and that's definitely valid. You're also going to work your hips slightly. If you feel you can bring your body down towards your knees more, that is going to increase the stretch, and this would be where I would start if you don't have great knees. So if your knees are sore, you can see I'm only slightly bending my knees, but I'm getting all of the benefit in my hips and in my back. Now, if you find that you've got a bad back and you don't like to do this, what you can do is you can keep the back nice and straight and just practice going down into these types of movements. So this is like an upright squat. Again, another brilliant movement. There's nothing wrong with doing this if you've got a bad back and you still want to work your hips and your knees. And that will also help you with your ankles. Now, what I like to do, or tell people to do, is to just play around in these movements, probably for 2 or 3 minutes a day, just getting into that position and holding it, really rounding your back, bringing your bottom as close to the floor as you can, is a lovely way to get a stretch all over the body and maintain mobility in these key areas. So the next exercise I'm going to show you how to do is called the overhead reach. And this is a great exercise for improving shoulder mobility and mobility of the thoracic spine or mid-back. So doing this a couple of times a day is key for these specific areas of the body. So the exercise is quite simple. You just need a wall. I'm going to show you the simple way to do it first, and then we're going to move on to more progressive ways. So many people over 50 don't have great shoulder mobility. So what we're going to do is we're going to work to improve this movement called flexion, okay? So we're going to stand facing a wall, one hand on the wall like this with a good posture. And you're going to start just by walking your fingers up the wall as high as you can go. Now, for many people, this exercise alone is going to be enough, and it will improve your shoulder mobility. So if you feel stiffness here, just stop here, hold for a second. You might gently just want to try and lean in slightly to the wall as long as it's pain-free and it's safe for you to do so, and then bring yourself back down like this. So this is nice to just improve shoulder mobility if you're very stiff. Now, if you're incredibly stiff, you might only be able to get your shoulder to here, which is fine. You just stop here for a minute, hold it, maybe just lean into the stiffness, and then bring yourself back down and repeat a few times in a row. But if you're a bit more advanced and you can quite easily get your hand up here, what we're going to do next is walk closer to the wall until your nose is touching the wall. So your nose is touching the wall like this, still with a good posture. You want to come quite close to the wall. And then all we're going to try and do is keep that posture and lift your arm off the wall without lifting your nose away and then coming back down. Now, this is a great exercise to build strength and stability in the shoulder in that last movement. You'll also work on your thoracic spine control as well, but the key here is to keep your neck relaxed, and we do that by keeping the nose resting gently on the wall and then just lifting that arm away, hold for a second, and then pop it back down. I'll show you on the other side. So again, the nose stays on the wall, we lift the arm as high as possible, keep a good posture. What we want to do is just squeeze the bum together as well just before we lift the arm. So squeeze your glutes and then lift away. You can probably see this arm is a touch stiffer for me. That's because this arm is the one at the moment which is I've made a little bit sore with some of my own exercises. So we're just going to work on this one a little bit longer until it starts to loosen up and until I can regain control over that joint. So that's a great exercise to do. Spend a couple of minutes on each side, and that will really, really improve your shoulder mechanics and stiffness in the upper limb and give you healthier shoulders as a result. And the final movement that over-50s should do daily is hip rotation. Now, as we get older, the hips become stiffer, the ligaments tighten around the hips, and if we lose cartilage in the process of arthritis, we can lose the ability to rotate the hips, and then that can be the first signs of things going wrong for someone in their hip joint. So if we want to avoid unhealthy hips as we get older, this is a key exercise to do daily. It's very, very simple. We're going to do it lying down on your back like this. And what you're going to do is straighten one leg and leave the one to be worked bent like this. Then we're going to bring the leg up to 90 degrees. So we've got a 90-degree angle between the thigh bone and your body. The exercise is 2 stages and it's very, very simple. First thing we're going to do is we're going to turn the leg, bringing the shin bone across the body as far as we can, just till we reach the natural end. And then we're going to go the other way, come back to neutral, and then rotate outwards. Now you can see that I've basically got a line going down my leg like this. So my leg is not moving, it's just turning. And the thing that's doing the rotating is actually in my hip. So even though it's the shin bone that looks like it's moving, the movement is all occurring from the hip joint. This is like the pivot point. And these 2 directions of rotation, you might find or be surprised to find that one of them on one side is very, very stiff and the other one moves quite well. And that's the early sign that stiffness is setting in. But if you start to work on it like this, just going from one to the other, as long as it's pain-free to do so, it will improve over time. Now, for many people, this can be quite fatiguing because what we're doing is we're working muscles or isolating muscles that aren't used to being isolated. But if we do it consistently, they will become stronger. So that's that side. Let's have a look at the other side. So we bend the leg up like this. The line of force is going straight down, and then that's like your pivot point. So you're rotating across like this, and then you're going to go the other way like that. And you can see that movement there for me feels a bit stiffer, which means I should probably spend longer working on medial rotation, which is turning the thigh inwards like that, and then coming back out into external, which I'm quite good at. Now, as a side note, you might find that most men tend to be quite stiff going into medial rotation, and that's because retroversion of the hip is more common in men, and women tend to be a bit better in their hip rotation, but both sexes should practice this at least for a couple of minutes a day just to keep that hip mobility good. It doesn't take that much practice to start to see improvements, but the benefits on your mobility and your walking and your strength are definitely worth it. So those are the 3 movements that over 50 should do daily. I often give these movements out to my clients, and if they do them over time, what it does is improve their mobility, help them move with less pain and better strength, and leads to better overall health. So if you give them a go, I hope they help you. Please do drop a comment below. Let me know how you got on if you gave them a try. And if you want to get more from me, you can pick up a copy of my book. It's called Thriving Beyond 50, and you can find it on Amazon using the link below. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your time in watching these videos, and I'll see you on the next one.